Greetings, Notary Stars. Today is going to be Module 4, Printer Settings and Printing from Adobe. So we're going to take you through how to download drivers, installing printer drivers, and setting your paper trays on your actual computer. And then we're also going to take you through the Adobe print preview screen that you're going to see just before you hit the print button on your documents to ensure that that is set up correctly for you so you don't have any printing challenges, especially if you're a brand new notary and have not printed from a dual tray yet. That can be one of the most stressful experiences, especially once you get your first signing and the pages are not printing out correctly and they're chopped off and the package looks nothing like the PDF you're printing from. By the end of this class, it should resolve a lot of those matters. So first, we're going to show you downloading and installing printer drivers. So every printer is going to be different. You've got Brother, HP, Epson, and the example I'm going to give today is going to be with Brother, but with Epson and HP and any other printer out there, it should be very similar to this process. Now, when you get a brand new printer and you have your computer, you need to download the driver. And what a driver does is it gives your printer and your computer a handshake. It familiarizes the two with one another so they know how to signal properly back and forth. So first thing we do is we need to download the driver. Now, if I were to download the driver from the Brother website, easiest way to find it is Google it. Brother printer drivers. And you want to look for one of the first hits, or you can go directly to their website and work your way through the website. But if you Google Brother printer drivers, HP printer drivers, it should be amongst the top of your search list. And so we're going to get to this page on the Brother site. And then if we scroll down a little bit, it's going to ask you to enter your model number to find compatible drivers. So you want to obtain your model number off the box of your printer or the back of the printer. It's usually right by the plug and it will say model number. Mine is the HLL 5200DW, which is a very popular printer. They probably came out with some newer versions and the model number will be slightly different, but a lot of these drivers work for different model numbers. Okay, and then the first hit will come up and we'll go ahead and click on that. And then it's going to take you to the page and it's going to ask you some questions about your computer. And it'll also show you a picture of your printer. Now, if you get the dual tray and it only shows a single tray in the picture, that's okay, because the second tray is just an add-on that this printer can feature, as you can stack on several more trays to it. And then it's going to ask you, select your OS family. So you want to know what operating system you're running off of, whether it's Windows, Mac. I doubt any notary is going to use Linux, but there might be a few of you out there, or mobile. So this lesson is going to be on Microsoft Windows. So you just want to make sure Windows is selected. Now, if you have an Apple, you'll select Mac. And then it's going to ask you select your operating system version. Windows 11, Windows 10 32-bit, Windows 10 64-bit. Now, if you want to figure out what your actual operating system is, you can find that on your computer. And you just want to go to your search and type here to search. Just type in about, the word about. And the first hit that comes up, it's going to say about your PC. If that's not the first hit that comes up, you can just type in about your PC and it should pop up. Go ahead and click on it. And this menu is going to pull up and it's going to tell you everything about your computer and what it has. And as you can see here, it'll state the processor, what kind of processor I have, how much RAM that I have, and system type. There we go. 64-bit operating system, ARM-based processor. Sorry for the large mouse, but I just did a bigger mouse so it's easier for everybody watching this module to track and see where I'm pointing. And then Windows specifications, right at the top here, Windows 11. So I know I have a Windows 11, and then it does say I have a 64-bit operating system, but in the brother system, it just says Windows 11. It doesn't give you an option between a 32-bit and a 64-bit. Why that is, I am not sure. Maybe this driver is just compatible with both, unless Windows 11 is only 64-bit. I'm not that tech savvy, but just we'll go with Windows 11 for today. You're going to hit OK. Now it's going to pull up a bunch of different options that you can download. And you want to select the full software package, because what that's going to encompass is everything below it. It's going to download the drivers, the utilities, the management tool, and firmware. It's going to give you the whole kit and caboodle. And you'll click on that. And then you can read the license agreement if you'd like, and then agree and download. And then it's going to download in the bottom left here. And once you open that, it's going to take you through an installation process. And you just need to follow the steps. It shouldn't be too complicated, but just make sure you follow the steps, because we're not going to go through that, as I don't need to reinstall everything on this computer. But you'll open it up. And we'll at least get to the point where you can see what the page looks like. And it's going to ask you, yes, if you want to make changes to your computer. For now, I'm going to hit no, but you're going to want to click yes. Once you're done with the installation process, the driver will now be on your computer. However, you need to set the driver. That way, when you print, it's printing using that driver. In order to do that, you want to go to the search magnifying glass down at the bottom. Now you need to find your printer settings, and you can simply find it just typing in printer. Look for the hit that says printers and scanners and click on that. And it's going to give you a whole list of your printers and scanners that you have hooked up to the computer. And you want to find your printer. So I'm going to be looking for the HL5200DW, which is right here, and we're going to open that up. Once this next page opens up, you want to click on Printer Properties. Again, click on Printer Properties. And this window is going to pull up here. Now, there's a couple of boxes in here you're going to need to give attention to. The first one you want to click on is the Advanced box, because from here is where you are going to choose the driver that you just downloaded. Now, the challenge I have had with this is I had to call Brother, because even when I downloaded the driver, there was a whole list of them here, and I wasn't sure which one actually applied, because when you download the driver on their site, at least I didn't see it, but it doesn't really specify that this driver I just downloaded is called the Brother Laser Type 1 class driver. So don't be afraid to call your printer's support and ask them, as they can be really helpful. That way you can select which driver. And then once you select the correct driver, you want to hit OK, or excuse me, you want to hit apply, because if you hit OK, this window will close out. But I can't select apply because it's already applied to my computer. Now, the next section that you want to click on is device settings. So make sure you click on device settings. This is where you are going to set your trays in your computer. Now, you want to keep in mind there's two places you need to set your trays. On the actual printer itself, you need to go into the menu, and you can select tray 1 as letter, tray 2 as legal, or tray 1 is legal, tray 2 is letter, however you want. It's both going to do the same thing. I always put letter on top, on the very top tray, and the legal on the very bottom tray, but it's really unconsequential however you want to do that. So again, when you get your brand new printer, make sure you go into your printer menu settings and set tray 1 to letter and tray 2 to legal, or vice versa if you want to do it the other way. However, you need to make sure you do that same exact thing on your computer too, because if you don't do it here on your computer, it's not going to print right. And I think this is kind of the big step that a lot of notaries miss and don't set up when they get their brand new printer. And you'll see tray 1 right here. I have it set to legal, or excuse me, letter. You can select all sorts of different paper sizes, but letter and legal is pretty much what you're going to use. And then you're going to go down to tray 2. Now, mine says manual. I don't know why this Microsoft Surface Pro calls it manual, but some Windows computers, it will actually say tray 2, but it's going to be the one right below tray 1. So if it says manual or tray 2, you're in the right place. And you want to set that to legal. Now, bear in mind, if you set the top tray, tray 1, on your actual printer to legal, and then tray 2 to letter, it should reflect the same in here. So you want to make sure that those are lined up correctly and those are reading the same per the tray. Once those are set, you want to hit apply. Now, what you may want to do after you apply these settings is do a restart on your computer, because sometimes when you change a setting and it won't correct the problem, but a lot of times just resetting your computer after you do a change will do the trick. But again, tray 1 letter, tray 2, or mine says manual, legal. Make sure that's reflected the same on your actual printer settings on the printer itself, and you should be good to go. We're going to cancel out of here. And that is how you set your trays on your actual computer. So we have the driver installed. We have the trays set on the computer and on the printer as well. Now we are ready to print. Now, when we print, you want to print from Adobe Pro, or if you're using Adobe Reader, you want to print from Adobe. You don't want to print from Adobe loaded up in a website, and you need to watch Module 1 if you need a reminder of how to open up a PDF in the actual Adobe software application. But we are going to open up our executed closing package. Now, typically, you're going to print from a non-executed closing package, but I have this one labeled as executed closing package as I went over compressing this one in Module 3. So we've got an 86-page closing package. This is of mixed legal and letter paper. So when we print this out, we want it to be mixed legal and letter. In order to do so, you need to open up your print preview screen, and you will start by clicking on File and go down to Print. And your print preview screen should open and look pretty much just like this. Now, in the print preview screen, you can do a couple of different things. You shouldn't need to click on Property or Advanced, but on the printer, you need to make sure that you have the printer selected that you want to print to. So we're going to be printing this package to my dual tray HLL 5200DW. Pages to print. If all is selected, it will print all of the pages. If current is selected, it's just going to be the page that you are currently viewing in the PDF. Now, if you only want to print a range of pages, you can click on Pages, and this is an 86-page closing package. So let's say we only wanted to print the first 10 pages. You're just going to type in what page range that you want printed. So we want to do 10, the first 10, so we'll do 1-10. So that's how you would print select pages. But we're going to keep that on all. Page sizing and handling, you shouldn't need to adjust any of these in here. Any of the default settings in these 4 buttons should be perfectly fine. Now, there's a couple of options underneath where you can select fit, shrink oversized pages, actual size, or custom scale. When I print, I always click shrink oversized pages, and here's why. You can click fit, or you can do actual size. However, clicking shrink oversized pages, that just means it's always going to put that piece of paper in full frame when it prints. If it does have to shrink it, usually it's just by a couple of millimeters. That way it fits all the way on the paper. It's not going to shrink the text and fully like shrink the paper. And I'll show you where we're actually going to do that at. But this is always the safest bet because you never really have to worry about anything being chopped off, especially when you get to those long legal documents that have the barcode and text pretty close to the bottom. This will ensure that all of the text is fitting on the page. The other button that you need to click is choose paper source by PDF page size. You must make sure that this is checked, because if this is not checked, it will not print mixed legal and letter. It's just going to print either letter or legal, whatever you have your default paper size set at in the page setup button, which we'll get to in a little bit. But if you are printing mixed legal and letter, make sure choose paper source by PDF page size is selected. Now, if you ever get a closing package and you're wondering if it is mixed legal or letter and you cannot tell just by looking at it, you can always use this scroll bar over here to the right, because at the very top, it's going to tell you how big that paper is within that PDF. So it's 8.5 by 11 inches. So we know that one's letter. And you can scroll through it how much ever you want. And you can usually tell by the shape of the paper when it changes. And at the top, you can see there's a legal page, 8.5 by 14 inches. So, if you printed this package and you have all these settings selected and it prints out all on letter, there's probably a setting on your printer or your computer that you didn't do correctly that needs to get fixed. But this is how you can tell the paper sizes of each individual page if you want to go through them one by one. And there's another legal page. But if this is not checked, it's going to default to the paper size that you have set in page setup. So you can see it's 8.5 by 11 unchecked, but once you check choose paper source by PDF page size, it actually reads how large that paper is and what size it is. Print on both sides of paper, always make sure that is unchecked. You should never print front and back when printing a mortgage closing package. I want to say none, but there's probably very few lenders or title companies that are going to be okay with that. Just make sure that is always deselected. You do not want these printed front and back. Orientation, just leave that on auto. Okay, so there will be instances where title or a lender will want a closing package not printed mixed legal and letter. They are going to want you to print either all on letter or all on legal. Especially states like California and Florida, some of the recorders only want letter size pages. So when you read your notary instructions and you see instructions that state print all letter or print all legal, this is exactly what you're going to do. All of the settings on this page are going to be exactly the same, except you need to make sure you unselect choose paper source by PDF page size. What this box does is it overrides the page size that you have set up here in page setup. If we click on page setup, now you can select whether you want your printer to print on letter paper or legal paper. There's all sorts of other choices, but letter and legal are probably going to be the only two that you come across with real estate closings. And I can set it to legal and I can set it to letter. So now when I print, because that box is unchecked, whatever I have selected in the page setup down here will print out all the documents on that paper size. Now, if you have a legal size page in the PDF and it's being printed on letter, yes, it will shrink the text substantially, but that's perfectly okay because it has to shrink the text in order to fit on the letter size paper, and you're okay because you have instructions from title stating, hey, print on all letter paper, and there's no other way to do it. You cannot print a legal size document on letter size without the text shrinking. It has to shrink in order to fit on that page because you're losing about 3 inches vertically on that document. So again, when you're all good to go, you want to hit print, but just make sure if you're printing mixed legal and letter, that box is checked. Once this box is checked, it doesn't matter what you have set up in your page setup. This is overriding this button. This being checked is overriding whatever you have selected in page setup. Once you deselect and you hit print, it's going to print on the paper size that you have selected in the page setup, whether you're selecting letter or legal. Okay, and that concludes our lesson today. Today we talked about your printer settings, downloading drivers and installing drivers. Just remember, drivers are the handshake between your computer and your printer. How to set your paper trays on your computer, but you also want to make sure you set the paper trays correctly on the actual printer itself, and how to print mixed legal and letter or all legal and letter. Thank you for attending today's module. If you have any questions, please email us at contact@notarystars.com, and we will see you in the next module.